Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player game, and last time we started up on a new Bulwark run, and let's hop back in here as we still have a ways to go. Okay, so let's see, where exactly did we leave off here? We're on 55 energy, and looks like we're about to head into a normal battle, after which we'll have the choice of either getting some energy back or doing an upgrade at the place of power, or go into a random event. I remember we saw there were a ton of elite battles on this map. Now, they're, for the most part, on the opposite side of the map. Oh, no, I take it back. I think that's the previous time. It's only one elite battle, really? Or maybe we've already missed out on some of them. Yeah, they might have been some of the ones over here. Yeah, elite battle there. Elite battle there. Yeah, it might have been this one, in fact. But at this point, that's actually kind of interesting. Not only are the spots grayed out that we obviously have gone past, but the ones that are just outright impossible for us to get to at this stage are also grayed out, which is kind of helpful, because that does show us that, you know, even this elite battle that looks kind of far away and goes down a more distant path is theoretically still a way we could choose to go, and it might be the only elite battle that we have access to at this point, but we'll play it by ear, of course, a little bit here. Because next on the list is this next battle of the normal variety. Assassin. I think we've seen this guy before. Let's see. Remind me what his deal is. At the end of your turn, destroy a random enemy unit with 3 or less power. Every turn. Oh, okay. He is considered difficult, hard, which is, I mean, it seemed as though we were only seeing the normal battles with hard enemies toward the latter half of the run, and we're right around the halfway mark, so this might be the earliest that we've seen an enemy with that distinction thus far, or maybe I just didn't notice in the past. So, we do draw into Visigoda, and he is, of course, our key card, and we've had some luck in this run with drawing into him, so, I mean, then again, he is somewhat low power, so if they deal a little bit of damage, then that might be enough to set up their leader ability to destroy him. That would be not so great, but he is great if he does stay on the board, so having Eggman and Temerian Drummer to help boost him up could certainly be useful. One-Eyed Betsy for damage. I think we're going to want to try to boost and boost aggressively so we can circumvent this leader ability. I mean, damage is not necessarily ever a bad thing, but I think we can still perhaps get a little bit greedier, and Ramona is nice because that means we can get another Temerian Drummer. So I think we might even stick with this, and Dandelion giving us the chance to draw into something else is always nice. Now, mostly for when you do not have your key cards in hand, and we do already have Visigoda, we have Eggman, we have Ramon plus Temerian Drummer. We don't have a great recipient of our boost is really the one thing that we're missing here, so that's probably what we'd be looking for to get with Dandelion, but for the time being, I think this will do. Okay, so to lead things off with, yeah, I mean, the earlier we play you, the better, for sure. So I think we will drop you down here.
Critical thinking. The sign of a healthy mind.
We cannot boost the Ancient Golem because it has the immunity, so we can't target it, or at least can't boost it with Visigoda. So let's, as we've done many times already in this run, I believe, we're going to play Visigoda first turn, especially against an opponent that we know might be able to destroy weak units. We should make a point of boosting him up so that he's harder to destroy. Yeah, it is still possible. They might have the damage to lower him down to 3. We're certainly hoping that's not the case. Huh. Giving armor. That's a little odd. Doesn't really synergize with what we were seeing there. But at this point, why don't we go Ramon into a Temerian Drummer here, as that gives us more boosts. Don't think anything that we've acquired recently changes that.
History shall remember the art of fear.
And for now, let's have the Temerian Drummer boost up Visigoda, because this is the most important card that we have right now that we want to keep alive. And with Visigoda, we can help boost up some of these guys, especially since we don't have a preferred boosting recipient. Might as well just try to keep these guys high enough power that the assassin's not going to be able to take them out. Okay, now the longship will deal damage to us whenever we play a unit. So that will weaken us a bit and potentially set them up to destroy some of our cards here. But at this point, let's see. We want to get Eggman down quickly. We want to get our other Temerian Drummer down quickly. So perhaps we do this. It will get hit for 1 damage from the longship, although I think it started off with 1 armor, so it did tank that. We do a little bit of boosting there. Honestly, it might have been worth putting you in between like this, because you're now not going to get boosted by this Sumerian Drummer. You're going to get boosted up to 7. You're not as vulnerable. Okay. It's going to be... Oh, bleeding. Yeah. Another interesting case of... Once upon a time, this card had a totally different ability. Or actually, this is the old ability that this card had in Gwent multiplayer, but its new ability is remove armor and boost self. So, at first I was expecting that, but no, it is more damage. We could... we can't break through all that armor that they've been adding. It is 6 damage, but that's still not enough. So, unfortunately, not the best fit. I mean, we can get Eggman down there. That does potentially give us 3 damage. We could, of course, use our leader ability for Thunder, but I think we were kind of aggressive with our energy early on here, and so we might want to try to save that up if we can. Because we're still, I mean, we have a huge lead at the moment. So, I think we will go Eggman. And in this case, he has Veil, which means that he cannot gain other statuses, which includes Bleed. So since he is immune to Bleed, he is resistant to this Corsair, which means he's a little better when it comes to avoiding taking the damage. And we'll use him to boost up this Sumerian Drummer so that this one can stay a little bit higher up and hopefully avoid reaching that 3 power. Now, this is only 1 random enemy unit with 3 or less power. It's not like if we have multiple on 3 or less that they can destroy them all in the same turn, because that would be bad. That would be very bad. Okay, Mullane is damage of a certain variety. Okay, they went for the damage multiple cards rather than damage 1 card by lot. And honestly, it might have been better if they went damage 1 card by lot, because then they could have dropped something down to 3 power to combine with their leader ability. We do now have a preferred target for our boost with the Trident Infantry, and I think Visigoda's gotten big enough, or the Sumerian Drummer gotten big enough that we can, you know, not have them get boosted and still be okay. So that's probably our play here, or we could go Dandelion into Trident Infantry, and that technically means we're playing 2 cards in the same turn, so we get 1 extra charge on Visigoda, which is also a nice little luxury to have. So maybe we do that. Dandelion, we'll draw a card, and we will want to get you down quickly as well, but let's prioritize this here. I mean, technically, boosting in this matchup specifically may be more significant than damage, because their whole thing is that they destroy cards that are on low power. And they might be able to destroy Dandelion, but it's not a huge deal if they do. Eggman's a little vulnerable here. I mean, both these guys are, really. Yeah, this could set up something to get destroyed. They can get rid of Dandelion if they want. And they will. But he's already done his thing, so it's not a huge deal. Higher priority is that we keep this boosting train alive.
Left,
like so.
Left, right.
And now you are not going to get boosted at the end of the turn because there's no one to the left of you, but you'll boost Eggman. Eggman will boost this drummer, which will boost this drummer, which will boost Trident Infantry. So, let the boost chain continue. Okay, that could very well, drop something down to 3 or less power. That's why we were trying to use Visigoda to boost you up. Now, we could have gone leader ability to give you a little more of a boost to protect you, but I think, once again, we're still doing pretty well weathering the storm here. So, at this point, we're looking more at our finishers here, and we could use One-Eyed Betsy if we'd like to get rid of... It's overkill damage on the Corsair, but that is giving them a little more value with the bleed. So that's an option. You've already done your thing. The Longship is really the biggest engine that they have here that we'd like to remove, but with all that armor, as we previously established, that's just not very feasible for us to get rid of, unless we get really aggressive with leader ability charges, but I don't... Or Eggman. Well, actually... Eggman for 3 damages you down to 5 power, 2 armor, 6 damage damages you down to 1 power. Random Trident Infantry hit would kill you, but we can't really guarantee that's going to happen. Could go Nekker, boost up Trident Infantry 4 times, and maybe at that point you can get an extra hit on the Longship, but I think we can make do even without that. So at this point, I think that means we're looking for some point slams with Sultan and or Stennis. I mean, Stennis could help boost up something. I mean, Visigoda's getting a little low here, so maybe Zoltan does make sense. Boost up both these guys. Especially with all of his armor, where he just does not care about this longship at all. Now, once again, gonna deliberately boost Eggman just to try to keep him alive here, because he is potentially the most susceptible to getting destroyed. Now they're trying to give armor to him. Okay, to reveal also a lot of damage here.
I like the way you die, human.
Okay, so nothing going down that turn, which means we're doing pretty well at this point. We could also even send us range row. Just boost up all the people who are kind of low. That might not be a bad idea.
I'm not afraid. Fear is
So
a
you,
common
it's what?
trait.
It's 4 separate units? Yeah, so let's get you, let's get you. Should get you for the damage, and then probably Temerian Drummer. This is more valuable than Ramon. And Sennis is on 3 power, but we don't really care if he gets destroyed. Well, if they want to do that, that's fine with us. He's already done his thing. Yeah, that's, well, surprise, surprise, some more damage. Ooh, they did manage to get you down to 3. Darn. Okay. So I think we have enough of a margin here that that's still not that much of a concern. And at this point, we get random damage from Trident Infantry hitting you. I'm not sure that we did, because this would mean dropping you down to a 4, dropping you down to a 1. Yeah, still looking for slightly more damage. We could make it happen with Thunder, but that's probably overkill at this point. So let's just go Nekker,
Not me. Thank my little A.
and I mean, we can boost up other people above 3 if we are really concerned, but again, we're most concerned about keeping you guys alive because you're more valuable long term. But, I mean, they're in decent shape here. We'll give 1 boost to Eggman, 1 to Sennis, then we'll just go everything else on Trident Infantry to deal damage. So they could very well find a way to still destroy Sennis or Nekker on their next turn, but it's probably still fine. Okay, Gimpy lowers Ramon down to 3. I mean, he was also pretty useless at this point. So, should be fine here. 1 at Betsy for damage, and, I mean, at this point, we're probably just looking for the pure damage. Might as well get rid of boat builders. So get less armor. Not sure that's really going to be much of a factor at this point. And we should use Eggman at this point on our last turn, because that's, rather than getting 1 point worth of boosting, get 3 points worth of damage, and we'll once again just get rid of a 3 power card. Alright, what's their last card? Deals a decent chunk of damage, but we definitely still hold on for the win. Alright, very nice. As I said, I'm pretty darn sure we've beaten this assassin already. And we've already added several cards to our deck. I guess we'll add one, but it's starting to get a little bit bloated, perhaps. The Nausicaa Sergeant is significantly upgraded in terms of base power. Does have the ability to get boosted whenever we play a card with deployability. We don't have a lot of those. A lot of our cards automatically do things at the end of our turn. Pyrotechnician has an order to deal damage to himself and to our opponents for 4. Just doesn't really synergize with what we're doing here. Primordial Dow is it's a point slam, basically. 9 power, has a shield. Honestly, it's probably still the best option for us because we have a bunch of cards that we want to play early. Like the Trident Infantries, Temerian Drummers, Visigodas, and the likes, Eggmans of the world. And so there's just so many cards competing to be played early that the problem with something like Nausicaa Sergeant is that if you play it at the very end, because you're prioritizing all your other engines, then it doesn't have any time to develop, doesn't have any time to get boosted, and then it's just a 7-point unit. Now, granted, it is so highly increased, this base power, that even in that case, just 1 turn in which you benefit from this deployability, and you're basically tied with this Primordial Dow. Yes, you still have the shield in this case, but I guess we can justify it for that reason. 7 power is still quite good. Okay. So now we can go one of 2 ways. Place a power or events. Now if we go for this place of power, we can potentially get more energy or other types of upgrades before this battle. Looking at treasure chests, really either direction we end up going, probably. Other events, more places. I mean, if we're trying to maximize places of power, if we go this way, it does take us toward an elite battle. Yeah, I think we need to be... We're getting close enough down. I think we need to be planning what the best route is in preparation for the boss. And it seemed like we had spent a lot of energy. Then again, we're still at 52, which is not terrible. But we know there are sometimes really hard normal boss battles, or rather, normal enemy battles that can appear toward the end of a run. And so, if we do run into one of those, we might need to spend a lot of energy to win them. In which case, having all these extra sources of energy from the places of power does seem nice. I mean, we've added a lot of cards to our deck already. So I feel like maybe we do go this route. Yeah. I think we might want to do that. Played a little bit safe at this point. And just take the energy. Okay, and now it is functionally the same here. Not sure there's any reason to pick one battle over the other, because they're both just going to lead us to this treasure chest. So we'll take the shorter distance route, I guess. Rune Mage. Not sure we've seen him before. Have we? What's his deal? Trade and play a gold unit and boost it by the number of rune stones in your graveyard. Cooldown 3. Okay, so it's slow. He is considered a difficult enemy. But assuming they're going to spam a bunch of rune stones, then that could make some of their cards quite powerful. So it seems like a very boost-centric opponent. Might not do as much in the way of damaging or disrupting our combos now. Rune stones. Yes. Let's see. We can get the full info on them. Spawn and play a random bronze unit, then give a random enemy unit 3 bleeding is one option. Spawn a random bronze unit, damage random enemy by 2. Spawn and play random bronze unit, give a random allied unit a shield. Spawn and play random bronze unit, give allied unit vitality. Random bronze. Boost random allied unit by 2. Or spawn and play 3 random bronze units. Okay. So, a lot of randomness. But, I think, let's see. We have a lot of boosters, early round boosters with Temerian Drummer, Eggman, and Temerian Drummer. Nekker we can play late. Dandelion Poet is nice in that although we don't yet have a ideal recipient for our boost, we might be able to get one with Dandelion. So I'm hesitant to swap him out, even if he might be the least exciting of the cards we see here. I think we stick with this, to be honest. And we do draw into that high-power Nausicaa Sergeant now. In terms of deploy abilities, I think all we have is Dandelion right now, so we are probably looking at the order being Temerian Drummer, Eggman, Nausicaa Sergeant, Dandelion Poet, Nekker, unless we get other cards that change that equation. But let us begin with you, and we can boost up our Ancient Golem. No Visigoda for what might be the first time. Okay, now I imagine they might quite literally have exclusively runestones in their deck. Okay, that will give them damage. And they can only target this Temerian Drummer. Bloody Baron as well, which can reset cards. Then again, it actually, at the moment, they would be forced into resetting this Temerian Drummer, which is, well, below its usual starting power, so that'd actually be detrimental for them to do that. So it's kind of interesting. We could use, and I think probably, in fact, should use One-Eyed Betsy to destroy the Ardfiend Crossbowman right here, because it has armor, so it means we get the 6 damage, so it immediately will go down. And that means it continues to brick Bloody Baron, because he does not have any useful targets for his order. I'm curious to see what the AI does here. In that case, would it just not use the order ability and save it? Or would they use it and waste it? I mean, yes, in terms of timing of our own cards, if we're talking about, selfishly just maximize our own points, then we look at another Temerian Drummer or Eggman. or even Nazca Sergeant. That's not as time sensitive. Technically, this does get boosted by One-Eyed Betsy. This has some long-term potential, because whenever you play unit, damage a random enemy unit by 1, so there is something to be said for shutting this down early, and that's why I think One-Eyed Betsy here still makes some sense. Okay, so will they use this at all? I'm not sure that they will. They'll get a Nazca Sergeant, okay. They reset themselves. Okay, so I wanted to dodge this order ability because it actually can counter us quite effectively. Because if they reset the power of a unit, one that we spend a whole bunch of time boosting with the Temerian Drummer, then that's gonna basically completely counter it. So now let's go Ramon, and we'll use Ramon to create another Temerian Drummer. Now, once again, that is a card with a deployability, and therefore it is a card that could have boosted up Nazca Sergeant, although for the most part, I mean, this is 2 points every time we proc this, whereas this is 1 point per turn. So you could make a case for playing this earlier, but I do want to get these guys down early as well. Danging Knight, that is going to get boosted every turn, unless we damage it, which I'm not necessarily sure that we are going to do. Okay, Stannis more boosting, and he is a deployability, so yeah, I think we can still get some value out of this Sergeant, so it's not that much of a concern. Let's go our other Temerian Drummer here. And at this point, maybe we'll spread out our boosts a little bit more. But there is something to be said for chaining together all the Temerian Drummers, because that way, if they do have damage, then we can at least make sure that we are powering up our most valuable cards and make them more resistant to that damage. Another crossbowman. Because, yeah, they're going to go after the Temerian Drummers. That's going to always hit the highest card, this botchling, which is going to be this Awakened Golem. So that's not that much of an issue. We probably would, very much would, like to have Trident Infantry be the recipient of our boosts here, because he does benefit from that. So that is one of the key things we were missing before, so I think we play him here, because he's going to give us 1 additional point every time he gets boosted per turn, whereas you're also worth 1 point per turn, so it's functionally quite similar, the value that we're getting there, between you and you. Okay, they'll switch over to the boosting form with the Lubberkin. Another Redanian Knight. Okay, now we do Egmont here.
I fight for him, bleed for him, yet what do I get?
So we're gonna gain more power every turn because we're adding more engines onto the board. They're getting some, though. They are getting some, and of course, this leader ability is pretty strong, even if it doesn't activate all that often. So we need to be a little bit careful here, because we've not yet used any leader ability charges or any leader abilities ourselves, and, you know, at the moment we are still looking at a deficit. So I think we were going to go Nazca Sergeant now. And that way he'll get boosted from Stennis. Dandelion, we'll see what we get with Dandelion. Might be another card with a deployability. Let's see. Wyvern, more Thrive. They're getting a fair bit of that. Tibor. Huge point slam. It does summon a card out from our deck, and it is an Eternian Mauler. The positioning here is unfortunate, because we don't have a great way to get him boosted up. But I mean, that was huge. That Tibor there. So we might need to get a little creative here with a leader ability, maybe a portal on this turn, probably. We'll go Dandelion and see what we get here, first of all.
With pleasure.
Okay, and Drog is a card that we added, I believe, from the spring that we drank from. It transforms all other units in this row into Kitwani Revenants without changing their power. What is a Kitwani Revenant, you ask? Well, it will damage an enemy unit by 1, and if it destroys that enemy, the death blow, then it will spawn another Kitwani Revenant in that row. So basically it allows you to chain together all those death blows and fill up a row with all the Revenants if you have low enough targets to go after. And this Lubberkin is boosting up their weakest unit every turn, so that is making it kind of hard for us to do something like that, unless we use some Egmont and Eternian Mauler damage to help soften up a target. No one is time sensitive here, so we can use those abilities whenever we'd like. Transforms all other units. Okay. So the downside to that is that we do have cards that gain value over time. Temporary Drummer, Nazca Sergeant, the Mauler until it uses its ability, Eggman's, Temporary Drummer, Charm Infantry. So we don't really want to convert those, at least not early. Otherwise, they're gonna, well, lose out on those other abilities. So in that way, the Drog is not a great match for our deck, which I think is what I had said when we acquired this, that it's not really ideal, even if it does, in some circumstances, make itself a very strong card.
You wounded. Again.
So we might even want to use Nekker to boost up this Eternian Mauler, and with that, see if we can get rid of someone altogether, because with 4 additional boosts, you're 1 below your base power, so you're going to get up to, what, 4 damage, which is not enough to destroy anything, unless we combine that with our Alzur's Thunder, which, but we could get rid of your armor, which means you're no longer dealing damage every turn. That's something. I mean, I think we're using some sort of leader ability on this turn. Let's give the boost here. And then we'll see what we get with a portal. Okay. Oof. Oh, how I wish. It's a lot of familiar cards here. How I wish we had used some of that damage earlier to help set up Thalabor, because he could have been amazing. Because if he destroys a target with 3 damage, then he can hit again for 2 damage. And if that destroys the target, hit again for 1 damage. But he does not have the setup right now. There's nothing at 3 power or less. So it's looking like it's Nekker once again.
Thank not me. Thank Melitele.
And with her, probably giving more boosts to this Eternian Mauler. And then with that, that gets you up to 8 damage, where at that point, I mean, you could destroy a Fuka, which I'm not really sure they're going to be able to get the Thrive to trigger on that all that much. We could get rid of this Lubberkin. We could, and that's giving them 1 point return. Maybe we go after the Lubberkin. In which case, we actually only need to boost you twice. And then we use the remaining charges to boost up you. Okay, so that was enough for us to take the lead here. I mean, they still have 1 more card than us in their hand, or at least until they do this. So, it's closer.
We're going ahead. We're going to make it here.
Much closer now. And so I'm eyeing this row here for the Drog. And might even need to do this on this turn, because the K20 Revenants take a turn before they can use that order ability. So we're not really going to have space to spawn in additional Revenants if we do that. However, it is just going to be, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that have damage, so 8 total damage. We're missing out on 1 boost from you, or 2 boosts really from you. Missing out on a few boosts on you. Not sure if this deployability is going to trigger you before. I think you're going to get converted before you get boosted from this deployability. But I guess the one thing we could do is we could go another portal here and just see where we get from this. What does this give us? Another Dandelion, which means we can get a card from our deck, which... I mean, Visigoda's kind of late for that. Primordial Dow or Zoltan would probably be the preferred options, because they gave us their full value right off the bat. I think the answer probably is Zoltan, unless we go with the Callus on, like, you for 5 damage, which could destroy a Wyvern, but I'm not really sure that's all that worth it. I think the Dandelion Poet is probably still better.
Asking me for help.
It is the Dow.
That's smart.
So that's nice. I think we're looking at the draw here, though. I think we are still looking at the draw here. Okay, and that does give us a little bit more of a boost on the Nazca Sergeant, which is one of the reasons why I played that card before we played the draw. So everyone converts into a K20 Revenant. It doesn't change their power. but it does get rid of the boost that we were getting every turn from the Temerian Drummer, and the boost we're getting on deploy from the Nausicaa Sergeant. Huh? Wait. Oh! Oh, we technically could have played Stennis first as well. I did not... right, that was from Dandelion. Okay, we could have gotten slightly more points on you then. So it's going to be a melee roast damage by default. So that means we're getting a bunch of boosts. Yes, might as well do it on you. Get 1 point of damage out of it as well. Okay, so we have the 9-point finisher with the Dow. They're going to get pretty big card from their leader ability on their last turn here, which is kind of scary because how many of these runestones do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that means whatever card they create is going to get boosted by 9. In addition, that's just their leader ability, in addition to whatever they play here. So that's worth a lot. So I think that means we might still need to get aggressive here. We'll go with the Dow, of course. But I guess we can see what this gives us. Point-wise, well, we're pretty certain we know what it is, right? But gets us to 116. We have all the damage from the Revenants. Again, we don't have room to spawn in more of them, so we're basically just doing it purely for the damage. And you are an engine, so we should probably get rid of you, especially because you're on relatively low power. So it is definitely possible to do that. Then outside of that, we've what, 1, 2, 3, 4 more damage. I think we're just looking to hit somebody with said damage, and doesn't matter too much who it is. We could get rid of your armor and you no longer get boosted every turn, but you're going to damage us by 3 when we do that, so that doesn't really pay off. Okay, so we know they're getting, what did we establish? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-point boost. Plus whatever power they're getting directly from the card. So let's call that, that's probably like 18 points from their leader ability. Then they're getting whatever it is from the card they're playing directly from hand. So it's close. It's close. As to whether we need to play something else here with our leader ability, I think we might want to do at least a little bit of something to play it safe. Now, we will still get, or we should use, Eggman's ability, in fact, to deal more damage still. I suppose that could have factored into what we went after in that case. Like, maybe could have gotten rid of the Fuka. We actually could still if we used Alistair's Thunder there. Because that's what? 3 damage drops you down to 2. That means Thunder is a little bit overkill, but it does get rid of what could be potentially 4 points worth of boosts on this Fuka. On their last turn, they're definitely going to get the Thrive trigger from the Rune Mage, and possibly from this as well. So, I'm not opposed to that, and then we get still the boost from you, and damage from you. So yeah, I think we do perhaps go that route. Could have optimized that a little bit more, had I remembered that we had Eggman's damage hanging out here. So it's not the most extreme thing we could have done on our last turn there. We could have gone Portal and seen what we got from that. But we're hoping that this is still enough here. We know they have some big cards playing. Of course, it's also a Runestone. Retaining Archer, that gains value over time, so it's not a good card to play in a short turn. That is a huge point slam. Oh, it scared me. Oh, that scared me. But we do hold on. We do hold on for the win. All right, Rune Mage defeated. Cool encounter. And, I mean, once again, we are getting a lot of cards in our deck. You could potentially justify skipping here, but we'll take a look. Ooh, well, remember when I said point slams are nice? That's what Old Spirit Tip is, and that's what they played at the very end there. So he's just 13 power, no setup at all, no ability. So basically you play him on your last turn when there's no time to set him up anyway, and that's a good way to finish. Troll low. Lose all armor, boost up by that amount whenever you play a special, gain 3 armor. So he plays for, at worst, 11. If you just immediately use his order ability and convert that 2 armor into points, which is almost, but not quite as good as Spirit Tip. Special cards we're basically getting from our leader ability and not much else at this point. But in big encounters against elites or bosses, then that could still be useful. I mean, he's obviously gold here, so I think we go for it. It's a little bit riskier than Old Spirit Tip, which is also just a really good card. But I think the high end is obviously better, and the floor is not that much worse, so might as well take a chance on it. We have treasure next. And here, what will we get? Okay, let's see. So this is not the right time for the Pit Fighter, right? I think we saw him at the beginning of the run, and we said maybe it was worth it, but he gains power over time depending on how many battles you do, and since we're getting into the latter half of this run, just doesn't have the time to power up. I'm thinking that Cloak of Invisibility is probably the right answer here. Boosting an ally by 15 is really useful, and the immunity and Veil, especially on a card like Visigoda, so that it can't get answered, or at least it's very difficult to answer it, is very nice. Now the Raven's Armor to help protect our cards is useful, yes, but situational. So I think we go for this. And then we have random event, battle. And then at that point, we're getting pretty close. There's a lot of other events and places of power, depending on which route we take. So let's see what it's all about. Okay, Merchant in Need. I think we have seen him before. And if we help him, we can... Obviously, we're going to have to sacrifice some energy, but we can potentially get a really nice card out of it. So I think we can make this happen, given how we know that we have a lot of places of power in the future. So use your magic. You hoist the cart on watery muck and place it on the solid ground. However, in your haste, you accidentally damage some of the wares. No matter. Just happy to have the cart back in one piece. And as gratitude for our assistance, he will let us pick anything we want from his cart. Sienna, repeat the deploy ability of the next unit that you play during this turn. So, in multiplayer Gwent, that is really, really strong because there are some incredibly powerful deploy abilities that are all based around you only being able to use them once in most circumstances, but if you combine that with Sienna, then it is really strong. Now, do we have any of those? Our best deploy abilities in our deck might be Ramon, playing another bronze card from our hand, which is decent value, but it's not like that is so amazing that alone is reason to take Sienna, and I can't really think of other major deploy abilities that we have. So yeah, I think we might want to pass on her. Doedric. Draw a card, then move a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. 8 power. It's mostly a consistency tool. So, I mean, 8 power is not bad, but he doesn't really do anything other than fine-tuning your hand and making it so that if you have some bad cards, you can make sure that you replace those with good cards, or at least have a higher chance of making that happen. So, not really sure that's the best option for us either. Great Oak. Didn't we have this in our successful run before? I do like it. Damage an enemy unit by the number of cards left, then boost up by the number of cards to the right. If we use this at the end of a match, when we have a lot of units on the board, then it can be worth a ton of either damage or boost, or a little bit of a hybrid of the two. So I think this is, I mean, it's just almost universally a very useful card to have at the end of a match, so I think we'll take that. The merchant thanks us one last time and heads back toward the main roadway. So it costs us 10 energy to do that. We are now on 47 before going into this battle here, but we will have, potentially, a place of power right after that, so that's maybe not the end of the world, although we might be going into battle right after that, and then we have another place of power if we go this route, and then we have another battle, and then another place of power, and then it's the boss. So, okay, I mean, it's a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. So, why don't we hop in here and see who we get, and as I said before, I'm toward the end, so we're now definitely in the latter third. We have, at times, seen some very difficult normal enemies, and this might have been one of them. What was his deal? Oh, yes, I remember this guy. This guy is really nasty, because if this is a trap, do not highly boost Trident Infantry, because this is incredibly deceptive, because a copy in multiplayer Gwent means a base copy. Unless it specifies that. Well, I mean, technically it doesn't say base copy here, but there's almost no ability. There might be no abilities in multiplayer Gwent that spawn a copy of your opponent's card that is not a base copy. Was the distinction there? The distinction is if, for example, they were to create a copy of Trident of Infantry, which is what we saw previously, when we encountered this guy, would it be a base copy of Trident of Infantry, which means 4 power with all these abilities, or is it going to also get whatever boost we applied to our Trident of Infantry? Because what happened was we had like a 40-point Trident of Infantry that they created a copy of like 3 or 4 times for a total of like 100 plus points, possibly as much as like 150 from their leader ability. And so that very nearly had us lose the match, and we had to get pretty aggressive toward the end of the round with some leader abilities. So we want to, I mean, we can play Trident of Infantry, yes, but we need to be very, very cautious not to just pour all of our boosts on him so that we can get the extra damage, because if we do that, they're going to create multiple rounds of Trident of Infantries, and they're going to get more benefits out of that than we are. So we can boost, yes. In general, it's not a great thing, however, and if we do the boosting, then we want to try to split up the boost across numerous different units so that there isn't one single card that they can create a copy of that is just obviously going to be worth tons of value. So if we split our boosts, that's our best way to work around this. So Trident of Infantry, yes. I mean, does give us the damage, but we need to be really careful with this. Somewhat similar with the Nausicaa Sergeant. I mean, this one boosts from deploy abilities, which we could get from Stennis. At the moment, it's just that they might have deploy abilities from their cards, though, so this makes me a little nervous as well. If we get Eggman down, then he's going to automatically boost a card at the end of our turn, and so we're perhaps just going to want to cycle who the target of that boost is going to be, always putting a new card next to Eggman every turn to try to work around this, rather than just having him non-stop boost Trident of Infantry, which would normally be what you would do. So, can we still make this work, or are there other things we'd like to do instead? Of course, also they could steal a card like Eggman or Nausicaa Sergeant, and those are still engines they can benefit from. So that's also a little risky. This is a strong ability for sure. So we'd love to have in Visigoda, we could at least spread out our boosts, although this would be a good card for them to target. If we had a Cloak of Invisibility, actually, that's what we really wanted, was Cloak of Invisibility last time, so that they just couldn't target the card that we were applying all those boosts to. So that might be worth trying to fish for here. Maybe we do that. We did not get it, though, unfortunately. Trollolo is also a card that will gain value, gain boosts, or at least can gain boosts. I imagine similarly to the boosted Trident of Infantry, if this has a bunch of armor, then they could steal a Trollolo that has a lot of armor. And then if we use the order ability to convert the armor into boost, then they can steal a boosted Trollolo. So that's also risky. So it's kind of odd, the order in which we'll want to play these cards, I think. Like, we might deliberately play Trident Infantry first, not give him any way to get boosted, so the first time they do this ability, they're just going to steal an unboosted Trident Infantry, and he is not an engine unless you have ways to give him boosts, which we obviously have, but they may not unless they steal other cards from us, so I think we go with this. So I'm really trying to play around this leader ability rather than getting selfish and just focusing exclusively on maximizing our own points, because that is what got us in a lot of trouble last time we faced him. Alright, it has to be a spying card. So yeah, they'll give spying to him, which means they can now create a copy of him. Yeah, so that's to be expected, and that's what happened last time we faced these guys, this enemy, but this changes everything. Because now, we should be able to avoid having Trident Infantry get stolen if we use Cloak of Invisibility on him to give him immunity. He does have the spying status, which is that little eyeball. So they have done the setup, but I still think they would technically need to be able to manually target him for this to work. So I think this kind of saves us. I'm not 100% sure about that. And so this could backfire a lot on us, but we're about to find out. Or not on this turn, but on the next turn. For a card, they're going to give spying to a bunch of cards. So if both of our cards here have immunity, then they can't do much of anything to us. But then again, we're going to have to play something on our next turn. So now, we could play some cards that give boosts to this Trident Infantry, and we could, theoretically, direct those boosts aggressively toward Trident Infantry with things like Eggman, with things like Nekker, with things like Stennis. Again, we haven't confirmed this theory, but I don't think they'll be able to create a copy of Trident Infantry because it now has the immunity, so whatever we play here is the card they're going to create a copy of. So, I mean, for that reason, we could deliberately, once again, play something that is not an engine by itself, like an Eternian Mauler, where, I mean, sure, they're basically just getting a 4-point body with a 1 damage order ability unless they find another way to boost it. So I think we might actually go that route, to tell you the truth.
When I do the tenderizing, there's nothing
Because that is
left to
less
try.
valuable to them than something like Nekker or Eggman would be. And it doesn't have spying either. So all they could steal would be an emissary, which I'm not even sure they can do. Ooh, just completely avoided the leader ability there. That's awesome. Okay. So yes, that's ideal. Now, we're deliberately not going to boost this Eternian Mauler very much, because that means that that way we can make sure that they don't steal a powerful card. Now, they would need spying to steal it anyway. That's why they couldn't do it on their previous turn. So we could potentially do some things to boost you and get enough damage to destroy Furcart, because that is the card that is giving them ways to get additional spying statuses on us every time they play a special. If we were to combine this with the Great Oak, we could make that happen. Now, that's not really the best way to play Great Oak, because that'd be kind of an early Great Oak. We could use Eggman's. He has Veil, so he actually can't become a spy. I do like that a lot. I mean, his 3 damage would immediately remove Furcart. On the other hand, I would like to have the boost from Eggman. So, how much do we value removing you? I don't remember to what extent they have other ways to give us spying. Because if this is their only way to get spying on us, and they just aren't able to do it for the rest of the match once we remove him, then that means we can just do whatever we want from there on out, and their leader ability is pretty much useless. That'd be pretty sweet. But that's kind of wishful thinking. So, I think Eggman is probably still it's a relatively safe choice here. And we'll go the not as greedy route, and by that I mean we will just guarantee that we destroy you.
The throne will be mine.
So we won't get the additional boost on Trident Infantry, but we might have just shut down their entire deck. Okay, they can't even get doomed because they have Veil. Okay, Visigoda. Now, this is, of course, one of our strongest cards. It's a little late, or at least we would like to have gotten him a little bit earlier, but we could use him to funnel all of our boosts onto this Trident Infantry, which, if they can't put spying on Visigoda, is a fine thing to do. If they can, then we could be in a little bit of trouble here. But we'll give it a shot.
Battle,
This is a risk.
another entry in the chronicle.
All right, we can't we can't target you because you have immunity. We can target Eggman, though, and because he has Veil, he cannot become a spy, and therefore that is still a safe person to boost. So that is actually our preferred target at this point. And we are deliberately not going to... I don't think... Okay, maybe we'll wait on this sword ability, actually. I was going to say, I don't think they can create a copy of him, so maybe he is still safe to boost, in which case we could use the Visigoda boost to power him up. But that theory still remains largely unsubstantiated, as whether they do or do not have other sources of spying. It doesn't look like it. Looks like they're just trying to make a humongous Trident Infantry with all their emissaries. So maybe we're fine here. In which case we could do stuff like Nekker on a Eternian Mauler, Prince Dennis on a Eternian Mauler. We aren't really going to play much in the way of specials, so Trelolo is probably just going to be mostly a point slam, and we can use that ability immediately because he has Zeal, so these are probably our last 3 plays. Let's do... You have Assimilate? You do. So you are technically an engine. Granted, I think the only way you're going to get that Assimilate to proc was from spawning and playing a copy of other cards with their leader ability, so I think I've shut that down as well. So, I say all that
Royal Majesty.
to gauge how much of a priority it is to try to destroy you. Oh, that... Ooh, for Visigoda is unfortunate. Okay, now he's locked, so he can't use his order ability anymore. But at this point, we do still have Nekker, which we could use to give us additional boosts on this Eternine Mauler. And at that point, we can get you up to 8 damage. You could remove this Mage Torturer. Might still be the right play here. And we want to try to load up on as many cards as possible in the same row to set up a more powerful Great Oak. And since they have given us several cards in this melee row, then I guess we'll do this. Then again, the random procs of damage from Trident Infantry have on several occasions destroyed a 1-power emissary in the past, so it's not the most reliable of units in here.
But you'll live.
Not that we're about to boost these guys, but now we can do that. And that was probably going to be our last source of boosts. Don't have anyone to steal unless... they steal a Hoakim? I'm not entirely sure they can do... Oh, Mage Torture gives them more spying. They should put on this and steal this. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, that was clever. That was clever. Okay. So yes, they did still have a way to put Veil on, or rather put Spying on a card, and it's 11-point Eternine Mauler, which is 11-point unit, of course, but it also is 11-point unit that has an 8 damage order ability, which is not something we really want to see. So that's unfortunate. They got a lot of value out of that. Not quite as much as they got the previous time we played this opponent, but that is still pretty solid value. And they're going to get, what? Probably one more time they can do that before the end of the match? Not sure we can... We might be able to get rid of you before you have the chance to use this ability, which would be amazing. Great Oak. In this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. He is probably worth doing. Just to reduce the value of this order ability. Question is it also worth an Alzur's Thunder or maybe even a Portal and seeing if we get something that can give us damage from that? Because not only are we reducing your power, but we're reducing the damage from your order ability whenever we hit you, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. You're getting 2 points of value for every 1 point of damage. Of course, the longer we wait to play Great Oak, the more significant the damage becomes. They are going to get one more Eternine Mauler. So technically speaking, rather than rushing to destroy this one, we might want to wait and use the Great Oak on our last turn to destroy the second Mauler that they create a copy of. I think we're still going to have time to do that, right? Next turn, they're on cooldown. Turn after that, they'll get the Mauler. And so, yeah, we should have time if we play everything else first. So, let's go Trollolo in that case. Or maybe even the Dow. Again, try to load up in this row here. And still a question of do we need something here? We do still basically hit 6 points of value from an Alzur's Thunder on you, which I think we do. Think we still do that. Especially because point total wise, I mean it's close right now. But we played one more card than them, so to be honest, no, we can't really be getting clever like that. Lock and damage the unit by 3. I mean, it's not great damage, but it does reduce the number of cards we have in this row, which is something we want to have to set up a more powerful Great Oak. So, it's going to be Trollolo, and probably a Portal here. Get another card in this row, so we do need more value in. That's not bad for a point slam. War Elephant, technically speaking, when we have a card that has a shield, means that's basically a free 6 points there. So that gets you up to 14. Then damage you by 3 and boost self by 6. So that is still better. It's technically still better than Old Spirit Tip is. You have immunity, which could have been useful earlier on, but you're not worth as many points, so still think we're looking at this. And Trollolo. Technically, playing Trollolo first might have given us one more armor, because that was a special card, right? Yeah. Didn't know what we were going to get, though, so there's a chance that something we got might have been worth playing earlier. No real way of knowing. Probably should have played it safe, though, and guaranteed we got one more point on for the low. Ah, well, that's smart. And unfortunate. There's the mauler that we're going to target with our Great Oak.
Could have settled this amicably, you know.
So that should significantly limit the amount of damage they're going to get from that. And technically, we could have waited to go Trelolo, assuming we were going to use a portal on this turn, which I think we are. But then again, if we did that, they probably would have locked Trelolo, which then again, we probably would have preferred rather than them locking more Elephant. But let's see what we get here. Because I think we do need this. And we could use something like an old Spear Tip right about now for the point slam. So we'll go here. And that means we have the maximum value from the Great Oak, and we want to go the damaging route here on this Mauler to reduce its damage. So if we go its damage based on the number of cards left, so that means we want to play you all the way on the right side for 8 points of damage, which means that was going to be what? An 8 damage order, but now it's a 1 damage order. So that is, that's the last thing we can do here. I don't think we have any other abilities we can rely on now, so hit for 1. What is this finisher? It's Glusty to transform or destroy any 1 power card and get boosted in the process, but they only had 1 to do that with, so we hold on. What was a very difficult opponent last time around. We played around it a bit more this time, but still got a little bit of nasty surprise at one point. So yeah, that deck really counters our deck, or at least can. I guess we'll add. At this point, I feel like it is not necessarily the best idea to do this anymore, but Neneka's not bad. It does synergize reasonably well with the rest of our deck. Obviously, we have one already of her. So, how much energy did we use on that? Something like, was it 3 portals? So 18? Something along those lines. Now, I think for that reason, we are probably looking at a place of power here to restore some energy. We could remove a card if we wanted to, but I think this is pretty urgent at this point in time, this late on in the run. Okay. So now we're back up to 52, which, if we're gonna go into one battle here, hopefully we don't have to use too much. I think we used a ton of energy the previous time we faced that guy. So, or at least we had to do a mad scramble at the end and just barely avoided a loss to him. But hoping we won't have to use as much in that battle and restore some more energy here. Battle here, once again, a matter of if we still have decent energy, maybe we can take the upgrade from this place of power. Otherwise, we'll get the energy back just before going up against the boss here. But I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here for this one. And next time, we are probably looking at making our way all the way to this next boss, which is a powerful monster that we don't really know anything about, but we've theorized is some kind of big green bug that, based on the image here, looks like it might poison us and do a whole bunch of other nasty stuff. But either way, that's going to be it for this video, so thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next time.